everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Dowagers. This is Cynthia Schrock.
And I'm Sharon Smith.
And we're so happy to have you guys with us here today. So our last podcast was very hard. It was all about hard things, and everybody seems to be going through hard things right now. And it just seems like this side of heaven, we're always going to walk through hard things, and it's how we get through them. So today we thought we'd focus on something that kind of brings a little joy to our lives, because we get to talk about our husbands and our loved ones who passed. And today's episode is going to be all about honoring your loved one, and ways that you can honor your loved one, ways that maybe Sharon and I have done that, or ways that we've heard other people honor their loved ones. We love for you guys to comment on this and let us know on the YouTube video how you've honored your loved one since they've passed, things that you've done. That would be a really great idea. So how are you doing, Sharon?
I'm doing okay.
After last time's, when things get hard and life just kind of stinks.
It's you would think after a roller coaster ride, no doubt.
After all we've been through, you would think we could have already checked the box and just have an easy ride from here on out. And that is not how life works. It does not work that way at all.
No, and constantly trying to figure it out. You know, it's a day by day thing. We learn every day. We just day by day. There's no rule book. There's nothing to follow that says, oh, okay, you do this and then you'll be okay.
Right. I wish there was, but it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What are ways, like back when Jeff first passed away, or anybody else in your life for that matter, has passed away, how have you honored them in your life? Things that you've done or continued to do, or... I know we've talked about it a lot. We talk about it in our own private time with you and I. I know that when we've talked on the side, and I didn't realize till today when we were talking about what you just got done doing to honor your brother, that I realized, like, wait a second, we've talked a lot about things that we've done, but we've never shared that with everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think Jeff is probably got to be one of the most honored people that ever lived and died, because our whole family constantly, has some way that we're honoring him. In the very beginning, after Jeff died, and we were going to have his celebration of life, which definitely was one way that we honored him by just sharing Jeff, sharing who he was as a person. We did a 3-week, we called it the Tour of Jeff. So we went for 3 years. My son, my daughter-in-law, and two of our little grandbabies, and we went from Florida all the way up to Wisconsin, and we just went to the different places that Jeff always liked to go, or things that made us think about him. And then we ended up in Wisconsin for his celebration of life. And then he had told me for all the years that we were married, when and if, well, not if, something is, it's always going to happen. Doesn't know who's going to go first. But if it was him, how he wanted this to go down and where he wanted his cremains. And so we ended up, and it was out on in a body of water that I could never get to myself. So my sons knew, and our other son met us up there. And so we took Jeff's cremains in the boat, and things that Jeff liked, popcorn, Twizzler, red Twizzler licorice, and we had pictures and we had notes, and I had little lanterns that were biodegradable. And so we took the boat to the very very spot that he wanted to be put in the water. And then we said what we wanted to say, and we put things in the little lanterns, and we sent them along the way, and put his cremains in the water. Not all of them, but a good part of it. And then on our route back home, we followed his cremains.
Oh, cool.
Obviously, they weren't real. I mean, yes and no, right? But
You followed the water.
yeah, yes, we followed the waterway. So we went from a lake in Wisconsin to the Wisconsin River, and then the Wisconsin River went into the Mississippi River, and so we made the stops where St. Louis and Prairie du Chien, St. Louis, and then we ended up down at the very end in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, that's
And
so
it
nice.
was 3 weeks. So that was our very first thing that we did. But then other than that, my family, my sons and my husband are very, very big fishermen. Um, so my son had a number of fishing poles made by a gentleman that can do that. And he actually makes them and paints them and everything. And so Jeff's cremains are in those fishing rods. And,
That is so cool.
and this gentleman has a vault, so he has some of Jeff, and so then he puts them in there, and then we name them different things. I got a
Aw.
rainbow one because Jeff always sends me rainbows, so I got a rainbow one, and my sons got stung by bees after Jeff died, and they said, "Oh my gosh, Dad turned into an angry bee." We have the sting. So we have a number of them. Um, Yeah, so we've done some really unique kind of things,
Yeah.
and we all have some kind of memento that we have Jeff's. I have a necklace with some of his heart-shaped necklace with his cremains, and my son has a fishing hook, and it has cremains in there. I
Oh my
know,
word.
really, yeah,
You can find all kinds of things for fishing, huh?
right.
He's forever fishing. He's gonna fish forever, at
Yeah.
least on Earth until that
It
stuff's
all kind of goes back. Once upon a time, way back in the day, I had read an article in a magazine. It must have been like a sports magazine, and this gentleman would put people's cremains like in a golf ball or a shotgun shell or in different things. And I remember the shotgun shell, and he said, and then he would take it and you could shoot it off. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that would be perfect because my husband was a hunter too. And so I just always was in the back of my head. So when this happened, we just ran with it. But there's many things.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Right when Eric first passed, of course we did the memorial service, and things like that. But then a friend of mine actually came to me. I had no clue. We come from a background where they buried the bodies. Cremation was like not something that you did.
Right.
For our side of the family, that was something probably just within the last 15 years. And so when I had him cremated, I never once even knew that you could do anything. So he sat in my closet for the first over a year because I was like, I didn't have the wherewithal to do anything with him.
Right.
And then a friend of mine said something. She sent me this thing website called Spiritual Pieces, and where they actually incorporate your loved one's ashes into these beautiful glass sculptures. I mean, gorgeous glass sculptures, and they can do it. So I got one for myself, and I just love it because it looks like a piece of art sitting on a shelf, so you would never know. And I got one for Matthew that looks like a globe with his dad's ashes in it. And then Ashley and I, the same company does rings, and I had Eric's ashes incorporated into this stone. And I had one of these made for Ashley too that we can wear. And so I didn't know. I mean, obviously, between you and I, we've given people like a ton of things that they can do with the ashes. But then another way, and I know a lot of people, this is just your more traditional way, but is to actually bury the ashes and then have a marker there at a gravesite. And I wasn't going to do that. Eric could have cared less. He's no longer here. That's just the ashes of his body. And so what we ended up doing is Matthew came to me one day and he said, Mom, I want a place to go. And I thought, ooh.
Yeah.
I've got to give him that. If that's how he needs to honor his dad, then I need to give him that.
Yeah.
And so we actually buried some of Eric's ashes at a memorial park here in Sarasota, and we had a marker put down and everything like that. Boy, you talk about sobering, because my name's on the marker now too. It just doesn't have an end date. It's very eye-opening when you see that for the first time. You know, it's like, oh my goodness. But one of my most favorite ways that we honored Eric was the year before he passed away. He was supposed to donate his desk of his great 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 grandfather to a home in Illinois that was his great 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 grandfather's house that now became a museum.
Oh, wow.
And so in July of 2021, we were supposed to do that, and we had a situation arise. It was horrible, kept us from doing it. And then 2 months later, he's gone. And so, and the kids and I said, that's it. We're going to honor Eric by doing this, and we're going to make sure that this desk gets to Illinois and gets in this house. And so we had the desk shipped up there. We had a shipping company come pack it up, because this desk is like 1861 it was built.
Yeah, that's when they built things to last.
I guess so. But they still took care of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it literally, we felt like we were shipping it like Indiana Jones, you know, like we were truly honoring Eric, because they put it in like a box, like not like cardboard box, like wood box, nailed together. It was, yes, it was wrapped up in like, my aunt said when it arrived, she could not believe, she goes, I've never seen something wrapped so well in my life. It had styrofoam around it, and then it was wrapped in bubble wrap, and then wrapped in like plastic wrap or something, and then it was put inside the crate. You know, it was like,
Wow.
it was incredible. And so it got shipped up there, and it got to the house and everything. So last July we did a road trip, you know, and we would try to do things along the way to honor Eric as we went up there. But when we got up there, it was so sweet, because the whole town, it's not a big town, a town of 2,000, you know, people came out for the event to dedicate the desk. And what was so crazy was there was a really old man from that town that had been in that house, because that house desk had been passed down from generation to generation to generation. You talk about honor. And here, when he walked in that house, he went, oh, I remember coming into this house as a little boy, and that's where that desk sat.
Oh.
So where they had put it in the museum is exactly where that desk sat. And so now you can go to that museum, and Eric's picture is on the museum, and the story about how he wanted to bring it back, but he passed away before he ever got to bring it back there. And so it was just really neat to honor him that way. And then we also had some of his ashes up there, and we scattered them on the farmland he used to farm with some of his friends that weren't able to make it to the service down here. And this is back in his hometown. So, you know, honoring our loved ones can come in so many different forms. You know, that was a big production, you know, of doing stuff, but it took a lot of people to put that together. But we even continue, we used to do family dinner night every Tuesday, and that was one of Eric's favorite nights, and we still continue to do that to this day. And we'll still talk about him at the table, you know, and bring up memories. I think memories is one of the best ways that you can honor your loved one too. If you don't want to do his cremains in a fishing pole or in a piece of art or anything like that, there are so many other ways that you can honor your loved one. And the biggest way is by keeping their memory alive, by talking about them.
Yeah, absolutely. It is healing. It's just so special. I think when people don't talk about their loved one, you know, and just in conversation. I mean,
yes.
It isn't even like a struggle for us. It's just like we just, you know, oh well, you know, Jeff would like this. Oh, Dad, you know, Grandpa, whatever. You know, my grandkids sleep overnight, and they're like, "Good night, Grandpa. We love you." You know, and so it just comes natural to us. And I think it's really important. And when you were saying about the Tuesday night dinner night, family dinner night, we just celebrated Jeff's birthday, and so every day, every
I was hoping you would bring this up.
we're going to celebrate Jeff's birthday. So it's like, it's a big deal. What would dad do on his birthday? Well, he would go out fishing. So it's like, all right, let's go out on the boat. Let's go fishing. And then when we came home, we had dinner, and my kids, my grandkids came over. We have Jeff's picture there and a little candle by it. And I mean, I set a place for him at the table, and then we eat, and we, just talk about him, talk about, things that he liked, blah, blah, blah. And then we have birthday cake, and
Yeah.
I put candles on it, and my grandkids we all sing happy birthday to grandpa, and then we blow it out, and we just, and I'm never going to stop, and I hope when I'm not here anymore, maybe my kids will do that for me too. We'll both get our birthdays, but it just keeps them alive in our hearts. And I think that's really important. I think for people who are stifled, maybe, that people don't want to talk about it, they're afraid to talk about them because they're afraid it's going to hurt us. It is I mean, I could speak for myself, and I think everybody that I've ever spoken to has said the same thing. It's like, I want to talk about them. I want to talk about them. So it's good. So you made reference to this. So I had a brother that was killed in Vietnam when I was a little girl, and they have a, 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 something that honors veterans. And it's called Honor Flight, and I've been to it a number of times at the airport, but I've never went on a flight to Washington D.C. to do the monuments and all that. Well, the last time I was at the Honor Flight celebration, they said they were taking Vietnam veterans. And I said, okay, bingo. I'm going to go, and I'm going to take, and I said, I have to take a Vietnam veteran. I don't care his age or her age, whatever it is. But I said, but they have to be a Vietnam veteran. And I want to be a guardian and take them to Washington, D.C. on the Honor Flight. Well, this weekend on Memorial Day, I happened to meet a very lovely gentleman, and he is a Vietnam veteran. And so we filled out our paperwork, and he's going to bless me by letting me be his guardian, to take him to Washington in honor of my brother. And so
That's so cool.
I just think it's just the most special thing I could do.
That's so cool. And you make a point. How old were you when your brother was killed?
I was like 10, so I was little.
Yeah. And here's the crazy part about that. I think we need to remember to do that is honor the loved ones who passed, even because I think sometimes we just allow that to fall in the background, and we don't do that. But look how you're honoring it by helping somebody else and creating a memory for somebody else, to be honored. Really, you're honoring your brother by honoring somebody else.
Right, exactly.
And that's so cool. And I just love, I don't think that word honor, even just talking about the word honor, I don't think we talk about that word enough. I don't think we understand the importance of it. We live in a very selfish society, where people just think about themselves so much. And honor is actually a very humble thing to do when you honor somebody else. And so to honor somebody is laying yourself aside and letting that person be exalted. And I believe that, that's who God is to us. We want to honor God in our lives. And how do we do that? A lot of times is by obeying his commands, is by honoring others. And what a better way to honor somebody here on earth than somebody who's with him, with the Lord, because they're being honored abundantly there. It's us that are here that need that memory of, hey, my brother gave his life. This is how I'm going to honor somebody. This is what I can do here in my flesh and blood body.
Right.
And our husbands died, and this is what we can do here to honor them. And like you said, talking about them, we don't talk, people stop talking about them sometimes, and you just can't do that. I talk about Eric like he's, oh, you know what Eric says? Eric said this, Eric says this. I say it like he's still here because I want his memory to be kept alive for the wisdom that he carried. And that's honoring somebody for the wisdom that they carried, for the love that they carried, for just the personality that they carried. And I think that we can honor our loved ones in such great ways that way.
Well,
Um,
and I've been to your house, you've been to my house, and we have pictures of, of them all
yes,
over the place, and I mean, so I mean, a day doesn't go by, where I'm looking at, I'm maybe I'm upset, maybe I'm mad, maybe I'm okay, whatever, or I'm trying to figure something out, and then I'll look at Jeff and I'll see that doggone smile, and I'm like, oh, all right, I know, and it's like it seems like it just happens in the most appropriate times. Like he's still here with me, and he's still, he can't speak out loud to me, but I know, So I think, just by having him around, I mean, that's honoring him too. I couldn't.
true. And don't think for one moment I don't look at his picture and go, wait, why did you leave me?
Well, there's been that conversation. Yeah, it's like, what the heck, you know? you know, it's like, oh yeah, sure, easy for you to say, but yeah, yeah.
Why am I here left to deal with this? This was your job.
What do I do now? Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah,
it's so funny. I just love I we all one of the other things is I have a picture on the wall of a painting that an artist of Ashley, a friend of Ashley's did, my daughter Ashley, of what it would have looked like had Eric gotten to hold Dorothy because, our first grandbaby was born in the week between his mom's passing and his passing. And he never got to hold her. And he was only 4 floors below where she was born, above where she was born. And I can't even imagine, that pain is so great, but that picture was so healing. You want to talk about honor, Ashley's friend honored Ashley by doing a painting of her dad and what it would have looked like had her dad got to hold his first grandchild. And that to me was very honoring. And that was somebody else honoring. I think that's another way to talk about honoring our loved ones is thanking others when they remember, when they when people ask about Eric, I go, thank you so much. Thank you for honoring
right.
him.
Yeah.
Because that's a way of honoring is by doing that for others, even that have lost loved ones. Tell me about your husband. Tell me about your brother. Tell me about your mother, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, whoever it was. That's honor right there. And whenever somebody asks me about Eric, about my mom, about my grandmother, I always say, thank you so much for asking. That's because that's honoring them. And somebody else that didn't forget. I think we feel our job to honor and keep their memory alive is so important, but when others do it, it's even more important because that means that they didn't forget.
Important. That is so important. It really is because especially as now that our lives have changed,
Yeah.
our circle of friends have changed. So now there's more people in our circle um that never knew Eric or Jeff, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
say, gosh, tell me about him. What do you like? What you guys like to do? What tell me? What did he like, or what was he like? And so many times people said, "Gosh, I didn't know him, but I know I would have liked him if I did." Because
Yes. Yes.
so but that's so right, and that's a really good tip for people who have not gone through this yet, but they have somebody that knows somebody that has. And it can be a mom, it can be a child, husband, wife, brother, sister, whatever. But it's really important to ask them, tell me about
Yeah.
it. Tell me, what do you
It
miss
is.
the most, or however the conversation goes. But definitely to bring up that person. Don't I had a dear friend say to me, she goes, well, I don't want to bring anything up because,
Ah,
you're having a good day. It's like,
bring it up.
bring it up. It's like, if you think for 1 second that a minute, a second doesn't go by, that Jeff doesn't fine, you're sadly mistaken. And I might be having a bad day.
I would forget.
Have a wonderful day after that, but yeah.
Every time I lay my head on my pillow, I remember very well.
Yep. It's just constant, right? You just don't
It's so
can't
true.
forget those. We can't forget those that brought so much to our lives, and I have thought so much about, lately, and I think probably because I feel like I'm turning into her in a lot of ways, but my mom, you know,
Oh,
my mom had Alzheimer's for 10 years. So people who have lost loved
don't
ones,
turn into her that way.
what's that?
Don't turn into your mom that way.
No, I won't turn her into that way. But I won't know if I do. But it and so people who have lost somebody with that disease,
Yeah.
it's horrific, horrific, and it they die a little bit every day, right
Yeah.
in front of you. But my mom was, even I even talked about it yesterday when I was with, my new friend, my veteran friend, and I said, yeah, my mom always looked on the bright side of things, and I said, I don't know, maybe I'm starting to be a little bit more like that in as I get older too. Um, but yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
it's funny because you guys, when do you go see the Vietnam Memorial when you go on this honor flight? Okay. So, years ago, Eric and I used to teach a parenting class. We taught a parenting class for over, I think it was 24 years. We taught a parenting class called Growing Kids God's Way. And one of the last sessions in that class was called Memorials.
mm,
And, you talk about how do we remember people? If we go look in the Bible, you see all sorts of places in the Old Testament where God said, I want you to erect an altar here to
yeah,
remember this. I want you to erect these stones here as a memorial to me so that when your children pass by, they will ask, what are those stones? And you will tell them what I did for you here. And so through this video, um, they recommended making something called a memorial box. You
mm,
take a shadow box, and inside the box, you place memories of things that God has done for you, sustained you through, that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt it was only the Lord. And you hang that shadow box on your wall. So years down the road, somebody comes by and says, what's that? Can you tell me the story again? And
mm.
your grandkids, I think about that because I've got a little one. I want her to ask me, tell me the story again about Pop Pop when Pop Pop did this, or tell me the story again about when God was good to you in this, because you talk about honoring. Our job is to honor the Lord and to honor others, and what a better way than a memorial box of our loved ones and a memorial box of what the goodness that God has given us and put those little memorials. I have a memorial box that I created about my kidney transplant. And it has every piece in there that I have hanging up. And I want Dorothy to ask, Grammy, tell me about this. What happened to you here? To keep that honor alive for what God has done in our lives, but also to honor that young man that gave his life so that I could survive.
Right,
And
right.
so there's things like that that I want to that I think would be a great suggestion for anybody to do is begin those memorial boxes, set up those memorial boxes like the children of Israel set up memorial stones
That's
so that your kids come along and they say, tell me the story again. Tell me this
yeah.
story again.
And
Wouldn't that be cool?
that's a legacy that can just
It
last
is. It
forever.
is.
You
It
know,
is.
that's that. I love that idea. Absolutely love that idea. And I think we do have to remember, that when we do good things like those kinds of things, we are honoring God as well. And he loves to be honored. And I love to do it.
Yeah.
Because one day we get to see him face to face.
Yes.
And those that have gone before us, and they'll say, know. So
Oh, that's so good. Well, Sharon, that concludes
yeah.
our session today. You want to close us out by letting everybody know where they can find us?
Yes, absolutely. And I want to say before we leave too, if any of you have ideas or you're struggling with somebody or something, not somebody, something, reach out to us, put it in the chat or whatever
Yes.
and let us know because we want to address what you're going through. But at the end of the day, like our channel, share us with other people, and you can find us on, YouTube, on all the podcasts, Instagram, Facebook. So just like and share, and we look forward to talking with you next time.
Yes, next time.
All right.
Well, guys, hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.